just print out info log, grabbing assets in path. So we'll see if we're actually even looking inside of the path. Because maybe there's something else going on here. What I'm looking for is that our stuff inside of test content, I want to see what type of class it actually shows up as. Because we got test content here, and like if you mouse over it, it says it's in game/test content. There's not a slash at the end of it. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. Grabbing assets in game effects, grabbing stuff inside of game/test content. Yeah, I didn't find anything inside of game/test content. So let's see if we remove the slash. So one of the nice things about having some of this auto-generated code is you can just go edit the auto-generated code if you're just debugging stuff and run it. And then you can just regenerate it and it'll blow all your debugging crap away for you. Let's see if we get some of those things, some of those assets actually showing up. Because sometimes it's stupid crap like that where it's like, well, you had a slash at the end of your path, so we didn't load anything, because fuck you, that's why. Game/test content. Yeah, found asset with name, test effect actor, blueprint. Alright, so the question is, should we just remove all those, all the slashes? And if we do remove all the slashes, those are stuff gets screwed. Let's take a look. Gotta love file loading stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you had a slash on there, so you meant every folder inside of that folder, right? Not the files in that folder too. Because that's the next thing we need to look at, is if we put the slash on the end, if the slash means like recurse or something else, and if there's no slash, it just gets that current folder. I don't want to assume anything. There's so many times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally gonna work, and then oh, right, the documentation is wrong, or something. So obviously our sound effects are still working. So let's take a look. Found asset with name standard camera and class camera control data. Found player idle state and class blueprint. So what we want to look at is if these things are of class blueprint, we want to see what their parent class was. Yeah, there's test effect data and test effect actor blueprint. Getting closer to useful. So let's take a look at what F asset data has on it. It has the asset name, the asset class, object path, package flags, package name, package path, get asset, get class, full name. So they're all U objects when you return them. Returns true if asset is loaded. Ooh. I wonder if we can... I wonder if we spawn one of these at runtime, if it actually has to load it from disk or some shit. Or if we have to call like preload on these things. Let's see if we can actually... Is there a way to preload assets and blueprints? I'm having the same issue. Unfortunately, copy all of your assets you want and set of coordinates so far away they won't render. Oh, this is so retarded. It's like, oh yeah, preload assets. Yeah, just like copy everything out of your asset library and throw it in just like a corner under the level. I'm sure that's fine. Is there a way to preload assets? The first time you drag a mesh onto a level, it takes a lot of time to process. Response: I'm not sure, but your PC doesn't sound strong enough. It's an i7 with 32 gigs of RAM. Yeah, okay, that's not normal. I'm sorry you're being a condescending dick, but you're being a condescending dick. Can you stop that? Oh man, all these questions. Closed because of it. Is there a way to preload assets? Come on. I want an answer to this. How do I preload my assets on Unreal Engine? I like it. They closed it as a duplicate question. Alright, this question was asked 2015. Unfortunately, then there were no answers to this damn thing. And then this other guy asked the same question, and then they closed it because it's a duplicate. And it's like, well, maybe you guys should answer the freaking question instead of closing the question. Well, let me just see. Load module, asset registry. Let's just take a look at iAsset registry. Asset created, get asset availability. Is there a load? Load registry data. Unreal load asset manually. Get platform file, pack file, set blah, find file and pack file. And the pack file you use blah blah blah. Cook looks like this. Synchronous load. Okay, so we can force a preload by calling asset loader synchronous load on the thing with the asset ref. Okay, cool. Okay, so we can call synchronous load or whatever the hell on these things. Because probably, most definitely, seriously need to do that. Alright, well, let's just see if this synchronous load actually does anything that we give a shit about. So we need the F asset data. I actually want this F streamable manager. Load. String asset reference. String reference. So we need asset.toString reference. Streamable manager. So what the hell is a streamable manager? What are you? Welcome back, Talon. Let's see, the streamable manager doesn't really have doesn't have any documentation. It just says fstreamable manager and then gives you a list of functions. Well, maybe we should go check it out. Is there streamable manager.h? Let's see. Synchronously load referred assets and return the loaded data or null. Objects will be strongly referenced until the delegate is called, then unload is called automatically. So this is basically saying that maybe these things will go out of scope and get garbage collected if I store references to them. That might be true. I will have to experiment. Object will be strongly referenced until unload is manually called. Simple async load. Well, it seems like what we should do is do like simple async load on everything. And then we can just like pull it. Alright, I'm going to leave that as a to-do. To-do, in order to make all the assets load, preload, call simple async load on the fstreamable manager and pull it. Update the UI, etc. or use the callback delegates. Alright, so that should at least make sure that we have those assets that are actually loaded. So now let's get the class. So new class star class equals asset get class. Returns the U class if it is loaded. Okay, so this will be like blueprint or whatever. We're going to need a list of classes that we actually want to cache. So it's going to be like if CLS, like get CLS does not equal null. We need CLS oh yeah, okay. So U class, we have like get name. Name of the class is star get name. Do we get like a parent class or anything like that? Definitely know if it derives from something else. Alright, so basically what we want to do is if it's a blueprint, we're going to need to special case it. So we need to actually get the asset. UObject object equals asset.get asset. Returns the asset UObject if it's loaded, or loads the asset if it is unloaded, then returns the result. Okay, so this will load the asset if unloaded. So if it is not null pointer, then we need to get the parent class. The object was a blueprint with a parent class of parent class name. If parent class does not equal null. And again, we'll probably have to auto-generate a few things here. Cannot convert from UObject star to UObject. Oh yeah. Jeez. What am I doing? Let's see. Alright, cool. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by people on the Facebooks. Cast. None of the two overloads will be converted to the augment type, so we want to cast object to this guy. People asking my advice about career stuff. I just got offered $2 billion to go do this thing. Should I do it? Well, do you need $2 billion? Yeah, then you might want to take the offer. Okay. Sometimes it's that simple. Can't find file for asset. What? Failed to load. Oh, that's interesting. So we're probably actually now attempting to load everything. Like you saw how slowly it went. It's loading every object in the whole game. And it's finding errors with them. Look at that. All of that. Found asset with name test data effect in class Dashkin effect data inside of game test. The object was a blueprint with a parent class of Dashkin effect actor. Alright, excellent. So the question is, should I load everything or should I not? I should probably have like some flag or something else to be like, should preload. We probably don't need to do preloading stuff. Oh, we might. We might. We're preloading all the audio at least. Let's see, what is U asset? Returns true if the asset was found in a U asset file. Right, so we want like a couple checks, like if asset is valid, is false, then continue. So found asset with the name blah with class blueprint, class material, class Dashkin logic state. Found asset with class blueprint inside of game test content. It's just giving us that it's a class blueprint. It's not telling us anything else about it, just that it's a blueprint. So we're probably going to need a few extra things to know about it before we can actually do anything. Alright, well, I'm going to take a very short break here before getting back to it. I'm out of caffeine, and I could use some more. So I'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll get back to loading assets. Always exciting. Yeah, I'm back. I was just running out of juice, so I had to go get more juice. And by juice, I mean drugs, and by drugs, I mean stimulants. By stimulants, I mean caffeine. And I was just, it's getting kind of slow. this work here, and that's because I'm kind of running into edges of Unreal where I really haven't delved very deeply, and also things that have pretty big impacts on how the game performs, such as loading assets and grabbing a whole bunch of stuff. And there's a lot of decisions here, such as, well, if we're loading assets, like what sort of assets do we want to preload, and how do we want to store them, and what sort of names do we want for these things? Because how do we want to reference the names of these assets? Because it would be nice to have short names and things like that, like Bitey player or standard player or test effect data, but those could be in different paths and stuff like that. So it's And one of the things I want to know is if something's an effect or not. So we can be like spawn effect, and then it'll know that it can actually spawn an effect from this certain object and crap like that. And it looks like in order to actually do that, to be like, oh, this blueprint is actually an effect, I have to load the asset and take a look at it. I'm trying to see if I can take a look at the class itself somehow, and it doesn't really look like it. So yeah, I'm just looking at the asset documentation right now. So we can get the asset, but it's going to load the asset in order to return it. And like export text name, like class object path is not the right class. Like what I want is, like, this is a blueprint with a parent Dashkin effect actor, but all I'm going to get is blueprint and then the path, and that's not helpful at all. I don't want to enforce naming conventions on it, because those are pretty fragile. And you're like, why isn't this loading? And I'll be like, well, you don't have FX on the end of it. And be like, well, what the fuck? How am I supposed to know that? You're like, well, I don't know. So I think we just have to load some of these things. If they're a blueprint object, we have to load them and figure out their type. Otherwise, if they're not a blueprint, we basically need to know what type of thing this is based on its class. So, I mean, we can see if like the static class of something is a U object, probably. Do we really care if it's an actor or not? I don't think so. I think we just care if it's a U object. Let me just take a look here. Let's look at scene component. It's a U object, actor component. Yeah, pretty much everything derives off a U object. So if I want to know if I can actually create something as an actor, I'm going to have to try casting it to an actor or something like that. Well, what kind of things am I going to be spawning? I'm going to be spawning like fat sacks and everything else. And I know what class those are going to be. They're going to be either entity proxies or player proxies. So I think we just have like a whitelist of classes and class names specifically. and that's what we use. Might be a little bit fragile, might be a little bit hokey, but it's probably not awful. Like, there's awful things, and that's probably not one of them. To basically be like, have like a list of types of things that will load. So I have like effect classes. We will have entity classes. And there won't be many of these. So there's Dashkin entity actor. Dashkin entity. Yeah, test character and class Dashkin entity inside of blah. We actually need the entity proxy, is what I think. So player proxy and entity proxy. I think those are the two that we can actually load up properly. And then effects classes are just Dashkin effect actor. And the actual game objects, there's another one, which is the Dashkin object actor class. If it derives from that, then it's something we can create, I think. It's going to be an actor that has child actors on it. It's not going to be an actual actor, it's going to be a... There's direct entities, then there are things that contain multiple entities. Is that true? Maybe it'll work. Alright, so I think those are our effect classes. So basically, if those match or whatever, and we'll have to load the entities to actually find out what's going on with them. So let's get effect class map. So it's going to be t set, or yeah, class set. Set of f string. Pass that in and it'll fill it out. Fill out a set with the names of all the effect classes. Get entity class set. And this is just because I'm being stubborn in some ways. I just want to be able to load objects by string and have it all work. Kind of like with... kind of just that's how I wanted to be able to do it. Alright, so it's going to be entity classes as CLS and effect classes should just be heading CLS. So I'll fill out our sets for us. And then with those, we can then throw those assets into our list properly. So slow but necessary work. Alright, we're gonna need our effects classes. We're gonna need our entity classes. Okay, so basically we're going to say, like, we've got the asset class, so if effects classes dot contains CLS, then it's an effect, else if the entity classes dot contains CLS, else if... I guess there are three different things we need to check. Basically, we need to find the actual class name. So it's like actual class name equals CLS, and if actual class name is blueprint, what is the specific one? It's just blueprint, like so. Then actual class name is going to equal other things. So we're going to call asset class uClass equals get class. Actually, no, we need to call get object. So if object is not equal null pointer, so if parent class does not equal null pointer, we need the blueprint. Parent class is not null pointer, then we need to get the name of that parent class. And we are going to say if the actual parent class is what we need. Actual class name. Basically, if it's a blueprint, we'll go load the object so we can get some more information on it. So if it is one of these two, then we want to actually do things. So let's see. I'd like to be able to refer to things by their short name. So why don't we just try doing that to start with, and maybe throw some warnings or some other crazy stuff out there. Spawn actor has to take an actor. Static class and a transform. I think these are all A actors. I don't think we're ever going to have any just U assets that, I think it's going to be M entity map and M effects map. I think those are our only two things that we've got. So if this is true, then we just need to do like if M effects map dot contains name, then we need to, can we actually do a warn log at this point? We encountered a duplicate asset with effects asset with name %s star name. And we do effects map dot add name asset get asset. Let's see, so it's a actor equals asset dot get asset. We need a cast to an A actor. If actor does not equal null pointer, then M effects map dot blah add actor. Otherwise, warn log the asset at is not an actor. So we're going to do star name, star path. And this is going to be M entity map. This should be the effect, the entity asset. we also need to add entities.add actor and effects add. And we definitely want, so it's going to be like get entity by name and get effect by name. And they're both A actors. So, get entity by name, get an entity, I'll get an effect. So it's going to be if him entity map contains name, return an entity map. So, return a pointer. If in effects map, so dot contains name, return, and effects map. Subname, internal pointer. We're also going to want to like get all assets, get all entities, and we're just going to return in entities. And you're going to get a const array of A actor pointers reference. And we'll do that as well for the effects. Get all effects. So what this should allow us to do is basically our data manager should have all the possible entities that can be created and all the effects that can be created. They should be loaded and you should be able to get them by simple name. It'll also print out errors if we have duplicate effect names, and it'll do that like at the beginning of the levels and stuff like that. So we can, if you named Fat Sack and then made another Fat Sack called Fat Sack, it would be like, dude, you have two Fat Sacks, you need to remove one of them. Makes sense. I think I'm gonna have to go mow the lawn today. Like, I was looking at it, it's looking a little wild out there. It's a jungle. Man, maybe we'll actually be able to create like a thing today. Get object by name doesn't exist. That's because I fucking deleted it. Alright. Get entity by name. Get effect by name. A actor. Get entity by name. Get effect by name. And data utils dot h. Excellent. And you kind of just have to go through some of this sometimes. Like, these editors are all nicely set up so that if you play within the box, that everything works. And sometimes staying within the box is a pain in the butt, so we like to build boxes within boxes. Because we feel safer the more boxes we build. And that's kind of what happens with all programming stuff, like especially with games. The you'll be like, all right, we got this engine. It's all awesome and good and everything, but it needs another component system within that component system that already exists, because we want our components to work this other way. And it's like Rise, Son of Rome had like 7 component systems deep into itself, where it was like there literally were 7 component systems layered on top of each other before you actually got into something actually did anything in the damn game. Which you might think is absolutely insane. I mean, I believe it's reasonable to think that it's insane. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for like any other system that would have like 7 layers deep of like stuff before you actually got anywhere. I guess it would be kind of like government organizations. You'd have like a whole bunch of government organizations, and you'd have to go through 7 different like phone calls with people and route it to somebody until finally at the end of it it's just one dude at a desk who's like, oh yeah, you forgot to fill out box 4. You're supposed to fill out box 4. Just copy what was in box 3 into box 4 and you're fine. I want such a person. Turn entites. Yeah, entities, not entites. The entites were some people who smoked a lot of pot in the Mediterranean Sea. The entites. Entities are actually what we're dealing with. So that should load everything. So what we're gonna do is I should actually add some info log stuff here. So info log loaded. Let's make it a little bit more obvious. Loaded asset as effect. I swear we'll get to something interesting eventually.